Welcome back. This is Weekend Express. We are within our last 1 hour of the show. Like I promised you, for the next 30 minutes, I have Susan Gitau. She is a psychologist with us. She's here in studio, and joining us by way of phone is retired Colonel Tom Onabisi. He is one of our unsung heroes. He has, of course, been part of Kenya's military and served Kenyans very well. This specific discussion is going to be around how it is that we can help our military soldiers who are constantly in war day in, day out, to be at peace mentally, not only physically, but also the psychology part of them. Susan Gitau, it's always lovely to always have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. So I'm sure you've also worked with retired soldiers, in this case also retired Colonel Tom, in regards to probably giving them and aiding them with psychology help after they come back home. How is that different? How is that unique probably from another client like Zinzi coming to you? Because for them it's very unique. These are people who have been in war. Yeah.
Thank you. What happens when we talk about soldiers, and I'm happy that I have had an opportunity to work with them, with blessings of General Oweno. He's now the commander, West Region. When he was the brigadier, Thika Barracks, the engineers, they call themselves SAPA. So what I discovered about the military officers, servicemen, and their families, they're quite different from us. Because unlike you and I, who wakes up every morning and you can kind of project how your day ends.
Yes.
For them, when their loved ones, especially the soldiers, go to war or they are sent out for missions, you're never sure whether they'll come back. You're never even sure whether they are safe, whether they'll even if when they come back, are they the same people. Actually, the soldier that goes to war is not the soldier that comes back. And what I have learned with my work with them since 2012 is that out there in Europe and United States of America, they have tried a lot to take care of their veteran soldiers. Actually, even shops like Yaya Center, Sarit Center, you realize they have discounts, huge discounts, because they know none can do what they do, putting their lives on the line for us. Actually, Kenya, even for you and I to sit here, feel this safe. Our Kenya Defense Forces that surround our borders, the ones that have gone to Somalia, you know, and they were actually not meant to go into Somalia. But when the sovereignty of our country was severely threatened, Kenya had no choice but to get in there. And remember, in 1995, the US had to withdraw their own because of what they experienced in Somalia. So you can imagine you're fighting with people like we are thinking of the Al-Shabaab, yeah? You're fighting people who are even okay to die because they have promises in heaven. But for you, you have a family you have left behind. Or you have a very young wife, because most of the servicemen are very young and having very young children. So for me, the military families will go what none of our families will go through. And it's important that their experiences are validated. Do not assume them. Because I say again, the soldier that goes to war is not the soldier that comes back. My experience also with their families, it's like they also become soldiers. The children become soldiers, their wives become soldiers, because mostly it's men who go to war. But we also have women, like United Nations missions, we have women also going. We have had women serving in Sudan, Southern Sudan, women serving in DRC, Congo, and others in West Africa when there were all these issues, Sierra Leone and Liberia. But you realize if you come to this other family that is not military, is not trained as a soldier, they are also like, if they are children, they are like their father. They start also behaving like their father. And when their father comes back, believe you me, they're not the same. You can imagine every day your life is threatened or you're threatened in somebody else's life. That constant threat to your own life brings in what now I talk about traumatic experience. And most of our soldiers who go to war experience combat trauma. And combat trauma is so severe that when we are having like debriefing sessions, they'll tell you when they're in the midst of other people, they feel like they are just off, they don't belong there. Like for example, if you have a trigger, if you are not helped when you came back, there's a trigger that reminds you, like a tire burst. You can find a soldier who has returned from war or in their post-deployment phase, taking cover, and probably even asking everybody else to take cover. If it's at home, when they experience the nightmares, you wake up everybody else, and they don't understand. So you can imagine that family that has not gone to the battlefield is experiencing what their loved one who has gone to the battlefield has experienced. And the families are threatened with high-level separation and divorces simply because this soldier that went to war didn't come back the same way. So a lot needs to be done. I know there are some efforts that have been done already, like currently they have tried to put welfare centers in the country, and I say congratulations for that effort. We also have 2 counseling centers. One, yes, yeah, and I have been part of the foundation of the same. We have one in Thika, Engineers Brigade, and another one in Kenya Military Academy.
All right, so let me loop in Tom into the conversation. Retired Colonel Tom, thank you so much again for your time this morning. Tom, Susan Gitau has really painted for us an image of how it is when you and as our military men and women go to serve and protect the nation outside there. When you came back, when you retired, did you get any sort of psychology help to help you with combating trauma?
No, ma'am. First of all, I might introduce myself again. I'm Tom Wanambisi, a retired military colonel. And I wanted to add a little there that ranks don't retire, but individual service personnel retire. So I retired as Wanambisi, but my rank still retained because I retired honorably. I served my motherland for 30 years. I joined way back in the 60s, in fact, precisely at the end of the Shifter campaign, Northeastern.
Okay.
When Kenya and Somalia entered into some accord. That is the time some of us felt that we needed to provide service for our motherland. And I had just done my secondary education. And at the time, there was requirement for young Kenyans to volunteer and to join the military. So I found calling. So I found that is where I belonged. I had an opportunity to be trained locally here at 9 months, after which we proceeded to United Kingdom, UK. I trained in the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, with 5 others. We came back in early 70s, and we joined the mainstream military service. Now, what prepares a military person to go to volunteer for service is that urge of wanting to belong to a community, to ensure that you also contribute towards the security of an institution, and especially a country like ours. So for me, my calling was to be one of those people who will volunteer to provide that service. And so I would say that my 30 years of military service were very rewarding. I saw the highs and the lows.
Okay.
Some of the lows would be in the field of escalated service that would put you into a lot of challenge. And as a young commander, I had 2 very key areas that I can quote. One was dealing with cattle rustling, which had become very rampant, especially in Rift Valley, Kerio Valley, part of those areas, and in fact even up to today, we still have cattle rustling. But at my time, I was a company commander, and in 1979 and 80, this is the time I commanded a company that dealt with cattle rustling. And I would say that we did it very well because for 16 years, from 1980 up to 96, there was not any cattle rustling in the parts of Rift Valley, Kerio Valley, all the way to part of southern Sudan. And as we go dealing with those kind of situations, we are very, very adverse in terms of climate and the environment. And so a military man has got to commit himself totally, psychologically, physically, emotionally, in every way. So preparation towards that kind of service or that kind of provision of that critical service has got to be done properly through some training, structured training, and that is done at the military training colleges that we have. One for the soldiers, which is done at RTS, that's in Eldoret, and for officer cadets is done in Lanette.
And
so I have had a chance to do that.
On
so
that,
that's outside. Yes, ma'am.
On that note, Susan Gitau said once as a serving soldier, man or woman, when you put your life on the line, day in, day out, you're never the same person. Do you also agree? You're no longer the same person?
No, you're not the same person. Because you get into escalated environment that tends to test your commitment and your resilience. Mm-hmm. So obviously you are not a normal man. You'll be there for a considerable period of time. And therefore you're separated from your family. Mm-hmm. And when you come back, obviously because of the kind of life you have lived, even if it meant a year or so, you're not the same person who comes back. Mm-hmm. Yes, after all, soldiers are also human beings.
So what do we do then? What do we do to make sure that we help not only our military men and women, but also their families in terms of getting them psychological help?
Ma'am, it's taken us, I think, a long time, the military, to be able to realize this. Mm-hmm. But I want to say that recently we came into meetings with those who deal with this, and I was very happy. Dr. Susan Gitau, she has in fact given us quite a lot of insights which we didn't know before.
Right.
For us in the military side, we didn't have this kind of experience. We didn't have expertise in discovering this until very recently. In fact, I would say that when this came so clear is when we had that experience in Somalia. But elsewhere where we have served, we used just to go and come back. As for me, I commanded a sector after the Gulf War, that is 1991-92. I was a sector commander in the United Nations Iraq-Kuwait mission. Mm-hmm. I was an observer, and we were put together about 37 countries. And I was a sector commander south, the border between Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Kuwait. That's where I was, where the main battle ended. Mm-hmm. And I was a sector commander there for the whole year.
All right.
I would say that that kind of experience, when we were there for the whole year and came back home, we didn't receive any other special attention whatsoever because there wasn't anything like that then. So I'm saying that right now, because of the Somali experience that had a heavy toll on our soldiers, and therefore it affected many families, that is when we are coming to terms with the reality and the extent and the scope of this need to have that specialized service entrenched into the military.
Right.
So that we have services like those ones, yes.
Right. And just, do you feel as if Kenyans, as us as individuals, Kenyans ourselves, perhaps the private sector and the government in itself really truly appreciates our unsung heroes? The reason why I ask you this is that Susan Gitau shared a phenomenal example. She gave the example of where, for example, if you were to go shopping at one of our big malls here in Kenya, you get a unique discount, being someone who has served on our borders day in, day out within war-torn areas, just as a way of showing appreciation and saying, you know what, we are thankful to you. Do you feel as if Kenyans, the private sector and the government truly honor our unsung heroes?
No, not at all, ma'am. That is not in fact there. And our wish, really, those of us who have served, is that we wish our brothers and sisters in the civil life would appreciate our input in the security, in the peace that we are enjoying today. That has been missing for many years. And I think as of now that the media is picking up, and we wish that this idea can be shared across board so that every Kenyan understands what a military personnel goes through, and by extension, even the family. Because those ones are the ones who bear the brunt of separation for many years. Children don't see their parents, don't see their fathers. And when we come home, we are seen as strangers, really. And it goes beyond just a family. It goes even among the the citizen of the country who don't know what the military does. I've been sharing some of these thoughts with some of my friends, and even some who are well placed in terms of education. They also don't know exactly what the military does. But if we had this kind of exposure, sharing, conversation, this will help, I think, for the general population to appreciate what the military does in a contribution towards the peace that we are enjoying today.
Wow. All right. Susan Gitau. Now, here's the aspect. We have the likes of retired Colonel Tom who come back from serving, and they've done so successfully. How do we begin to get our soldiers to open up? Because some of them have been trained day in, day out. It's a training, it's a condition mentally that has been put there to be stern, to be stiff, not to break down. But how do we begin to let them open up and share their experience as a way of healing for them, really?
Yes, yeah. And I'll talk from experience. To begin with, it has to start with the leader. I have told you I have had great support from Major General Owino, and I know he could be watching. He had understood. If you have trained outside Kenya, especially in USA or in Europe, they don't hide. They talk about your psychological well-being. They even have very good systems of making you maybe stay safe, stay sane as you serve, because we need you anyway. So it begins with the leadership, where the leaders like now retired Colonel Tom Mwambisi, he commanded, you know. But at the same time, he is acknowledging as a leader that I have gone through this. Actually, at KMA, when we initiated and inaugurated the counseling center, we had one of them, including the Major General Owino, who is the commandant of the military academy, sharing his experience. It's showing them, especially the servicemen, that we are human. And our psychology doesn't change because we have gone to war, we become soldiers. The only thing that I really appreciate is the training is very important. And by the way, our Kenya Defense Forces ranked very high among the soldiers who are very adequately trained, very skilled. But at the same time, there is this aspect that when I come back, I'm not coming back to the battlefield. I'm not only coming back to meet my fellow colleagues, and even if I met them, they have not gone to the battlefield. So I guess here is the challenge is the linkage. How do I reintegrate back into the society?
Right.
Because I have heard even those who have friends saying, I no longer understand so-and-so. After he went to Somalia, after he went to Iraq, I no longer understand him. So the issue here is to also help them know why you have to share, know why you have to deal with deployment trauma, because it affects every day of your life if you don't address it.
So how long does it take for soldiers to come back and readjust to the environment, or does that depend from person to person?
We always say that not everybody will develop PTSD. Even if you are in a highly threatening situation, not everyone. The only uniqueness about the soldiers is the fact that for you to put the criteria for assessing PTSD, the first one is you must be exposed to a life-threatening event. And of course, when you are in combat, your life is threatened. You're also threatening another person's life because you can also kill in defense.
So how do we, as probably the family and the friends of the soldiers, help them with that ease into integrating?
It is also good for you to understand what is this that they have gone through. And I was trying to explain there are actually 4 main ways you can pick that your loved one who has come back from war has maybe combat PTSD. One is the hyper-arousal. Somebody who was not irritable before becomes quite irritable. Someone who was not shouting, they are now shouting. Someone who was very calm, they are not calm anymore. You find them so vigilant, like they want to ensure that the door is locked like so many times, or they would want to keep an arm by their side you know, or you find that they're so suspicious and they were not like that before. If you also find that they don't want to enjoy things they were enjoying before. You know, soldiers, by the way, I have loved interacting with them. They like having fun when they have the time and when they have everything that they need. So you find somebody who loved maybe to play golf, somebody who loved to dance, no longer wants to dance. So we talk about them developing recurrent negative cognitions or thoughts and emotions. Your lovely wife, your lovely children, you no longer find them interesting. What has happened? Maybe you loved doing farming, you loved your farm, you loved your goats, you loved your cows, you're no longer interested. As a family member that has received him back, it is important to notice this. We also have some situations where they re-experience the battlefield. So they might wake up and say, shoot, shoot, you know. They might wake up and maybe even you become like you're the enemy. It is important not to run away from them, because those who do not understand what is also happening to them, you can imagine, they start thinking they are running mad, but ideally they are not running mad. They are only having PTSD, which is so real. It is so real, it can be real even to you and I. But who is understanding? So what, like we try to do with the families in Thika Barracks, is to come together. And it was an exciting moment. We let the spouses know, this husband of yours, this is what he went through. If it's the kids, we'll make them have fun. They say, how do you see Daddy when he comes back? Because when, imagine you've been at the battlefield, you're always vigilant. Your eyes are wide open. In fact, most of the soldiers, their eyes are like the newborns. You know, newborns rarely blink. So you find that you're always alert. So you've come back home and you're looking at your child and your eyes, you know, are wide open. Your wife, they say, why this person suspected me? What if you can share light moments? Share. What I would like maybe to give the soldiers, you are human and you have served. Are you able to demarcate? Are you able to differentiate yourself in the battlefield and you within the family or with your loved ones or with your colleagues?
All right, let me try and manage time here. I'd like to loop in again retired Colonel Tom Wanambisi, who is joining us by way of phone. Just to close off the show, what would be your advice and your comment to your fellow soldiers who probably could be watching or are still serving?
On behalf of majority of those families, military families who have already retired, is that we feel that we should be assisted in a way of bringing all on board. For the families that are part of us, we are sure they know that there has not been much attention towards them in rehabilitating them and rehabilitating those who are retired. We feel that we should be assisted by way of conducting what I would call a study, a focused study to look at the military family so that these issues can come out. But otherwise, if we leave it at that, it may not work. And also, in a democratic space, I know one would say, but what are you doing yourselves, military personnel? Are you just keeping quiet and waiting in the countryside? No, we have formed an NGO, which is already registered, is an international association of soldiers for peace. This association was incorporated in 2015, around March, and we are trying to bring on board all those who served in peacekeeping. We kind of picked peacekeeping because quite a number of us have had local experience and outside country experience, and we've met other countries where we do the peacekeeping, and we learn also from them what their governments do for them, and we appreciate what the government does. So for us, this side, we would want to say that maybe this is a new experience into our country, and we want appealing that let there be a focused study to be able to bring out some of these lessons. So that people, experts like Dr. Kitau, can be able to be supported also in their effort to be able to disseminate this information. We are starting a sensitization program. I'm starting that because I'm the director for Kenyan country. We have agreed in this system that we will just go around the whole country sensitizing peacekeepers so that we form a critical mass, a critical voice that can be heard. So we'll be starting North Rift, we'll go Western, we go Nyanza, and we'll walk around the whole country to sensitize peacekeepers so that we can form a critical voice to be heard.
Okay, thank you so much. This is where I'd love to stop the conversation, but thank you so much for sharing your story with Kenyans, and God bless you for your continuous service to this nation. That was retired Colonel Tom Wanambisi being part of the conversation. Dr. Susan Gitau, because of time, I'll let you have a very short, your short comments, your short closing comments.
Mine, this goes to all Kenyans and the leadership in the military. I appreciate the efforts that are already happening, but there is more that can be done. There are many military officers that have trained in counseling psychology, clinical psychology, and psychiatry. May they be deployed to do exactly that. And for those of us that have been volunteering, we don't mind to continue doing this, but doing it in a manner that is structured. And at the same time, to Kenyans, if we can have a way we salute our soldiers. In the US, they call you and they name you and they actually salute you. Thank you for your service, ma'am, or thank you for your service, sir. We do not want our soldiers to hide. We want them to come out because they are doing a service none of us can do.
True.
And finally, I would like to say, if the United Nations is aware that Kenya has been the biggest troop contributor from Africa, do something about our country. You can have a trauma center at ease through the Department of Peacekeeping.
Thank you so much, Susan. Susan Gitau, a psychologist there, being part of the conversation where we can properly be individuals who are helping our unsung heroes rather get back into society after serving their nation. Let us take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll dive into the conversation of peer mediation here within our schools. It's become a big issue with the whole fire incidents that we've been seeing. But what's the way forward? What are some of those solutions? We'll be right back.
This is KTN News.